Welcome back, everybody. Today, again, with Stanislav Krapivnik, our friend and colleague from Russia, who's updating us on everything that's happening over there. Stas, welcome back.
Welcome back. Well, my day, I got back yesterday from the Donbass. It wasn't quite as exciting as going into the woods in Japan with the bear attacks.
We just were on your program, and we talked about the fact that Japan has an insane amount of bear attacks, 238 in 2025, and 13 fatalities of that in 2025. And Japan wins against Russia, right? You guys only have 4 fatalities.
And that's up. That was 2 years ago was one. Yes, last year was three. Or the year before last was three. 2 years ago was one. Last year was four. And I had to divulge a secret to you. It's the bear cavalry, the untrained bears.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see we're so desperate with the situation in Europe that we would rather talk about bears and woods than about what actually matters. But that's what we're going to switch to right now, because again, I would like to talk to you about what you've learned from the Donbass. You were there. You were at that. You uploaded videos on your channel. Mr. Slavic Man, Stas Krapivnik on YouTube. Everybody look it up. But you put videos there, among others, of the school that got bombed, where 21 kids in Lugansk died, right? And can you tell us a little bit about your impression at the moment of the Donbass?
I mean, this was in Starobelsk. Starobelsk is it's a town. It's not a city. It's a town of maybe like 50,000 people, which I guess it was medieval times would have been a major city. But these days, that's just a town. And this was a college for future teachers. And just, I mean, it's a small college, right? So you've got the administrative slash classroom building, which is an old Tsarist era building. And there's I'll come back to that why I'm, by the way, emphasizing that point. And next door is the dormitory. I think it was just the girls' dormitory. There were some other buildings in that area too. But first of all, what you saw was just those two buildings. The reality is they took out, first of all, these buildings are in an area of the town. They're surrounded by residential buildings. They took out an entire block with these drones. Across the street, perpendicular to these two buildings, is a 5-story building, which was the arts center for the local schools. The building's destroyed. I mean, it took a direct hit. Had nothing even to do with the college. There was nobody there, thankfully, at night in that building. Beside it is a private house that took a direct hit. Across from the dormitory is a restaurant that took a direct hit. So they were just taking everything out around it too. There's two craters from these drones. One of those craters where they got the engine parts pulled it out of the ground from the remains of the drone. It's over 2 meters deep, and it's about 4 meters wide. They're packing about 250 kilos of explosives on these drones. And these are big drones. These aren't the little anti-personnel drones that you see, the quadro drones, FPV drones. These are airplane style drones. Some of these drones get up to meters in length. And these are big drones. They get to be the size of a small. Some of them will actually, not in this case, but some of the ones that they get tossed toward Russia. I mean, no, Russia, toward Moscow and other deeper areas of Russia. They get up to the size of small Cessna planes. Yeah, just to understand the size of these. Um, yeah, the explosive wave was so strong, and the direct hits on the Imperial building. That was the administrative slash classrooms. Uh, in part of the video, you see where I'm standing there looking at the wall. The wall thickness is about 2/3 of a meter of bricks. These are not what you call modern bricks. Modern bricks are crap, mass-produced crap from primarily clay. The old bricks were because the old bricks will last for just about ever, because in every brick the standard was you add in an egg yolk into the mix. egg yolks act like super glue on the bricks. You'll have bricks that are 500 years under sun and water, and they look almost brand new. I mean, it takes a lot of chickens, obviously, for anything that size, for mass production. But yeah, it makes super bricks.
Well,
They're more expensive. Yeah, but
you just need the yolk, right? So you use the egg white and make some grain.
not the right.
Anyhow, let's
Yeah,
continue. Sorry.
You have mountains of rain if you're making whole buildings worth of. I mean, they used to build castle walls that way, right? So this building is I mean, the walls are cracked. The floors, the concrete flooring between levels is sunk in from the hit. But the interesting thing is just as something I put up too. So we saw this video of supposedly Moscow hitting the Lavra, the upper Lavra, which is a cathedral. And what people pointed out, I pointed out also, if you look at it, if there was a missile strike on the Lavra, and Russia would never strike it, it's been desecrated every which way they can. They've made discotheques out of it that show they probably had orgies in it. I don't know. I mean, they've done everything under the sun in this to desecrate the Lavra since they took it from the church. But the interesting thing is, so setting it on fire, blowing it up. Yeah, there's pictures that came out of during the day. Somebody in the back behind was taking pictures as this filming crew was setting their equipment up, and then in the middle of the night, the guy sitting there videotaping the fire on the Lavra. So obviously, it was a setup job. They knew it was going to hit. But the windows, if you look at the windows not only is the glass in the pane, not only the panes in the windows, but the glasses in the panes on the Lavra. So there's no explosion. And what I was pointing out, if you look at the panes in these walls that are 2/3 of a meter thick, the panes are ripped out. And that was from the explosion that was outside. And that explosion was a good 10 meters away, where it missed the building and hit the ground and just dug a big hole into the ground with explosive force. And the panes are ripped out of the windows. It's still hanging there at angles. You know, the glass is obviously gone out of it too. That's the explosive wave. This is, I mean, they were carrying massive explosives. So 21 killed, 18 girls, 3 boys, 40 injured. But, you know, a lot of those injured are invalids for life.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the, hey, do you need some stitches or can we cover up that bruise? No, these people, their lives have been destroyed. And they're lucky that it's only 21 killed. If you look at that building, I mean, the building's demolished. Part of the building had to be, it quite literally fell in on itself. Mass murder.
Hey, just a very quick note. The best way to support this channel is by signing up for my free Substack. You can also help with a paid subscription there, or you can get some of our new merch on neutralitystudies.com. Links below. See you there. What is the analysis of why this target was chosen, or whether it was a mistake or something? Because there's obviously no military reason behind that. And on the other hand, and we have to talk about this, there might be now this strategy of the West to actually provoke Russia into something much more that Russia tried to avoid now for the longest time, right? And what is it according to what the current wisdom says in Russia?
Oh, this was strict terrorism. Ukraine is losing on a battlefield up and down the entire line, the 1,000 kilometers in the front. I mean, just to understand how the West is reacting on or how much truth is telling you. You know, about 3 weeks ago, the Ukrainians started waxing romantically about how they may have to leave and abandon Mirograd or Dmitrov. Yeah, 7 months ago they were surrounded and wiped out in Mirograd. They're just now talking about we may have to leave it. I mean, this is the reality, the quote, bare reality they live in. This was strict terrorism. Look, even if you ignore the fact that there were recon drones flying overhead for half a day before the strike during the daylight hours, 16 drones. This is not an accidental missile went in the wrong directions. This is 16 drones hit that set of buildings. So 5 buildings,
Yeah,
16 drones.
but why that targeting? Because like even from a Ukrainian perspective, it's like you're basically hitting a school building filled with people who you claim are your own, right? You're claiming those are Ukrainians. That's the claim in Lugansk, right? I mean, if you want to do this terrorism, why is it there? Why is it not in, pre 2022 Russia? Like
Oh, it's there too. Well, I'll tell you what. This is what they're claiming. But if you listen to the various videos floating around of various Ukrainian politicians speaking before 2022, they'll all tell you these are roaches we have to stamp. These are rats we have to destroy. They want the land. They just don't want the people there. They want the resources. They don't want the people that these resources belong to. They consider they themselves are mostly Russians by ethnicity. They're mentally degenerate. That's obvious enough, because no mentally non-degenerate would ever do this. If look, you can look up lots of videos where during the 2000 late 2000 teens, leading up to the special military operation, they were having parties dissecting cakes that look like Russian babies with little Russian flags. It's a baby. Look, we're eating little babies. The Satanism was incredible. That's just permeated society. Whether it's they were actually sitting at an altar of Satan, or they're just believing in an atheistic Satanism, where they support the exact same thing. They just don't believe in an entity called Satan. It's still Satanism. The attacks on everything that would be normal in a society. I mean, somebody brings out a cake shaped like a baby, and people are thrilled because it's got a little Russian flag on it. I mean, there were videos of them putting out cakes in the shape of a Russian soldier's leg with a piece of uniform on top of it that came off of a dead Russian soldier. And then they upload these videos. Azov was committing human sacrifices, burning people on crosses, burying people to their heads and chopping their heads off, and they're videotaping this. They are the ones that put these videos up on their channels as recruitment videos. I mean, the insanity is very, very heavy in that area. So they flat out said, these aren't real people. We don't need these.
But
It's hatred and racism on that level.
I have no problems believing that there are people who act like that. But when we talk about this military level, because 16 drones and whatnot, I mean, this is a very large coordinated affair, right, among a lot of people on the ground. And the only question to me is, if it is intentional, then what is the political intention behind it? If it is unintentional, then why would they mistake a school building for like a military compound? Both things would tell us something about the state of affairs in political Ukraine. But I just wonder how to best make sense of this, the very horrible attacks, because the other attacks are kind of easier to read. The attack on St. Petersburg during the forum is easy to read what it is supposed to do. The attacks on these petroleum stations and whatnot is easy to read. That one is hard to read. So I wonder what it tells us on the political level about the strategy in Ukraine.
When you take out a bus that's a bus going at night through a city, kill 8 people on it, injure another 11.
You take out a bus going to
Belarusian school children football team, killing a pregnant woman, putting 2 other adults in the hospital and 4 children. I mean, just to understand the ages. One of the witnesses, one of the witnesses said, we just switched to cartoons on. That's the ages of the children around there. When you hit houses, apartment buildings, specifically targeting them, lots of videos coming out. One of my wife's friends had a video that their next door apartment was hit, and you can see the drones just flying straight in the middle of that apartment building. It doesn't clip it. It doesn't go out of control. It's very directly flying into it. Yesterday, the Ukrainians murdered near Moscow, took out a 2-story single family home, murdered a 6-month-old baby. ripped the legs off of the mother, who later died from, by the way, from massive brain injuries also, and the father lost a leg. And by the way, from that young family, when that father gets a prosthetic leg, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to go fight. He's going to go fight. He's going to go get revenge
Right.
on the West
Yeah.
for what they did. And
So
these drones, by the way, were the drones that took out in Starobelsk were all made in Italy. So let the Italians swallow that they're baby murderers. Well, maybe they weren't babies; they were teenagers. The oldest one was 21, a couple 21-year-olds, and the youngest were 17, 16, 17.
so
That's what they're doing. That's where their
is
money's
your
going.
is your conclusion that we are in a phase of basically Ukraine and the West, the NATO, using terrorism in order to provoke Russia? Is that
Yes.
what we are
Yes.
in? Because that
Yes.
help me, when did that start? That for the last, we've had now this war going on for over 4 years, but this kind of attacks on civilians inside Russia, inside pre-2022 Russia, is relatively new, isn't it? When
No.
around when did it start?
In 22.
So
It's been from day one.
uh,
It's a capability of striking deeper that's new.
mm,
Ukraine, they HIMAR missiles, which, by the way, I said from the very beginning, those are American military, active duty military firing those HIMAR missiles on those HIMAR transports. It's Americans from the very beginning to the very end, from the manufacture of the missile, deliver the missile to the HIMAR platform, to selecting targets, to firing the missiles, to guiding those missiles into target. It's all Americans, 100%. And thank the New York Times, because they confirmed everything I said. I mean, even the Russian media, they looked at me sideways when I said that. Like, it's Americans. America is murdering Russian civilians. That's the baseline. American military is murdering Russian civilians. And New York Times confirmed that. I don't remember the exact day the article came out. It was December. It was late December, 2024. In fact, they even went as far as to tell you that the attack of missiles were not something the Ukrainians asked for. It was something the American generals who are in charge of all this asked for, the attack of missiles. And they've been hitting the hospitals, they've been hitting schools, they've been hitting everything across the board with them. The capability is the only difference. How far can they hit? With these drones, they hit on something that's better suited to try to hit deeper in. Though Russia's, it's an endless race. So this week, at least, the Ukrainians haven't had much success. Almost everything's been shot down. Very, very little is getting through for the resources that are going into these drones. Well, the Ukrainians, I mean the West, the Trump and his administration are fully involved. Let's not forget, it was Trump who was encouraging Zelensky to strike into Moscow a year ago, last May. I mean, not last May, May of last year. While he's talking about, we want to end this war, we want to do this, Trump's encouraging it. He's been egging it on. He's two-faced as it gets. He is a worse enemy than Biden was, because Biden was just a wall. Oh, okay, Biden's a sleep problem most of the time. Blinken was a wall that didn't want to negotiate. So, okay, that's the enemy you can deal with. And this guy is an enemy that keeps talking about, hey, yeah, let's work around this, while trying to stab you in the back with every opportunity. Just like look at what happened with Iran. Well, we got an MOU, so instantly we're trying to get things through. Yeah, Oman to get around this. And then we're starting to get the Kurds in Syria to invade into Iraq. I'm sorry, the Kurds in Iraq to invade into Iran. So you can't trust these people.
This kind of duplicitous game and using diplomacy as camouflage for military preparation. I mean, we've had a lot of examples for that, including the Minsk agreements, including like a lot of other diplomatic efforts that look diplomatic on the outside, but that are actually made in support of then finally getting to the military solution that you want. Is one of the reasons why people also in Russia, including the top leadership, argue that the United States is agreement incapable. So why do you think then it is that Vladimir Putin, for instance, and the top leadership still tried to cling to the Anchorage process and the spirit of Anchorage? What do you think the calculation there was? Because if somebody understands the duplicitous nature of that Washington diplomacy, then it should be the Russian leadership.
The problem is if you're a diplomat, and Putin is a lawyer, and lawyers use diplomacy, if you think about it on a constant basis, you have a tendency to think more in that frame than, say, a military man, who would go for more of a military solution. I would probably go more for a military, not probably, I would go for a military solution, particularly because I also know who we're dealing with in the West, and their mental state. The problem with the West, I'll tell you, and by the way, in Russia, to finish answering that question, the diplomats like Lavrov have given up on all of that. I mean, they know that diplomacy is pointless with these people. These people are, and not just them, the Europeans in general. Look, there's very few Europeans you can talk to or negotiate with. Orban was one of them, not because he was a Russia file, but because he was a Hungary file. And as he said, we've done this war thing twice with Russia. We're not doing it a third time. Thank you, but no. He's been replaced. We'll see how Magyar reacts when it's time to ante up a few million Hungarians to the slaughter. Things get very, very serious at that point. I'm quite enjoying the turnabout between the Poles and the Ukrainians, because the Polish people, by the way, hate they understand what's going on. The elites are absolutely sold. They don't represent the values or the interests of the Polish population at all. I mean, from the word at all. So at this point, what the West doesn't seem to understand is when they get desperate enough and they really want to negotiate, there's got to be nobody there to negotiate with, because nobody will ever believe them. And if they want to surrender or come to some terms before full war breaks out, it's probably too late by now. Who would trust anybody in the Western leadership?
Nobody in their sane minds. I mean, one thing is trust. The other thing is like setting something up that it becomes verifiable. I think that's the only way to go about, and actually, that's what the MOU with the Iranians is supposed to do on the Iranian side, right? It's supposed to be a roadmap that has verifiable steps that the Iranians can look at and say, like, either it was fulfilled or it wasn't. If it was, then we're gonna go a step further. If it wasn't, then well, that's it. Thing is dead in the water. But so you cannot actually design any kind of process built around trust. So that has to be thoroughly understood. So anything that comes out of this must necessarily include verification steps in order to get to the next level, right? But at the moment, when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, there's nothing on the horizon, right? With Iran, at least there is a process somehow large as it may be, but with Russia currently there's nothing. It's all blocked.
But Pascal, even with the process, look, they started negotiations on this process with the Iranians. Vance went over. They started the process, and Trump starts basically the war back up.
Yeah,
it's it gets to a point where even a process can't go forward, because the people on the other side are that insane, that untrustworthy, that treasonous, that if they even, and that, by the way, lacking control and impulse, when their impulse is, oh, wait, maybe we can just get one little more bite in. They can't control themselves. Robert Barnes, I'm friends with, I had a good interview with him, and he knows Vance directly. He's got his sources in the White House on top of that, in the administration. Said, Vance is basically a squirrel in a wheel, running around endlessly trying to keep. As basically said, Trump's gone. Mentally, he's gone.
Trump. Okay.
Yes. And Vance is the only thing keeping. Trump's already demanded access to nuclear weapons.
And somebody said no.
Yeah, the military said no. So apparently him, again, this is not videotaped. Well, maybe it is somewhere. But this is going off of from people who were there who passed on. So again, I cannot verify this 100%, but I trust the sources I'm getting this from. I said, Trump. This is before the ceasefire. So even back then, so a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Trump was demanding the codes to launch the missiles because he wanted to nuke Iran. And General Keenan said no, and apparently had a screaming match at each other in the Oval Office. In the end, the military said, "No, we're not committing this war crime."
we're relieved to hear that, we're highly worried to hear that, utterly believable. On the other hand, completely insane. But again, where does this leave us with? Where does this leave Russia? I mean, I am, and we talked before on your channel. I am so worried that the Europeans are trying to make a self-fulfilling prophecy, an inevitability, right? That they inevitably now are trying to make sure that at some point Russia will have to strike NATO territory so that they can claim Article 5, and that you then have a Europeanization of the Ukraine war, which to me would be an absolute worst case scenario. But I know that there's a lot of sick people in Brussels, in Washington, and in Kiev. I mean, Kiev understand the most. For them, that's the only thing that can potentially still save their butts. But for everybody else, it's an absolute insane proposal. And for the last 4 years, we saw how NATO actually wanted to keep the Ukraine war inside Ukraine, right? That was the whole thing. Again, Ukrainian missile kills 2 Polish farmers in Poland. Zelensky screams Article 5, and NATO shuts him up immediately because they didn't want that, right? But it seems that this is now different, and that they are preparing for a real fight with Russia. And it seems to me that the Russians are starting to believe the Europeans when they say they want or they will have a war, right? So what is it inside Russia and among your colleagues, among your sources, what you're hearing of how Russia is now digesting all of this?
Well, let me put it this way. Russian manufacturing is producing about 1,200 main battle tanks a year now, brand new. I'm not talking about refurbished T-72s with new turrets. Those are going in too. You don't see them on the battlefield, do you? Those are being prepped for the big war. A lot of the Russian munitions aren't going to the Ukrainian battlefield. They're being prepped for the big war. Russia is not a military economy yet. It's about 7% GDP. I mean, a fully militarized economy you're looking at between 30 to 40% GDP. It's going to be a very different place once that starts. So, what are we looking at? Russia's preparing, and it's massively preparing. When the investment, or not investment, let me phrase that, the recruitment potential for people with any kind of military service experience, from your call-up guys to people with who served multiple years and made careers of it, from one extreme to the other in combat veterans, there's about 32 million people. So you can't put that many people under arms because you don't have enough equipment to equip that many people. But that's the service potential without going into people without any military background, period. So yes, that's a huge potential. It's 32 million people. Now, Russia could quite quickly put 1 to 2 million under arms additionally. And if it's a full-scale war, you're not going to give them massive training because, you don't have time for that. But the point is, Europe can't. Europe probably, with 4 times the population of Russia, probably doesn't have 32 million people with military experience. If we're going to talk realistically, that they could pull up. Never mind. Well, I guess some of the immigrants that they've imported from some of the African and Middle Eastern countries, probably more. But realistically speaking, Europe can't do that. Russia's preparing. They heard the European message, and the view is there will be war. Okay, fine, there will be war. Russia is preparing for a massive conventional war.
But that's an absolutely horrific scenario, because the war inside Ukraine was already horrible enough, and then and because it's trench warfare basically, or like drone/trench warfare. It's like as in opposed to sea warfare or so. But we are looking at a World War I type of situation.
I don't think so. There's a degree here difference. This is not a military. Okay, let me phrase that. This is not a war. This is a special military operation.
Right.
There's a reason I'm saying this. The Russian military is still very limited in what they're allowed to do. Quite literally, the Russian military can put up a division's worth of Swans, which are heavy strategic bombers, and turn a section of the front several kilometers deep into a lunar hellscape. They could do that, which would make advancing a lot easier, but that's called total war. Russia could turn Kiev into another Gaza. Russia could turn most any city in Europe into another Gaza. Russia is now, by the way, manufacturing. I'll just say this: there's over 25, and the number is quite a bit higher. Areshniks being put in line and service every single month. So you could take out the entire infrastructure of an average European country in a day.
I mean, it's a horrific scenario, and
it is.
On the other end, I hear from European sources that I have no reason to doubt their sincerity, that the Europeans too are still keeping NATO still also keeps weapons back for the big fight. I mean, this would be absolutely. It would be an absolutely devastating war if it comes to that. I mean, and you're right to point out that it wouldn't look like a large scale of what we have seen in the Donbass for the last 4 years. It would be fought differently and with, to use another horrible euphemism, with the gloves off, right? But
yes,
Donbass will look like a cushioned version of what awaits for the entirety of Europe and including Russia, right? So any sane leader should actually see their duty as trying to prevent that. But if you look at what Finland just did this week of allowing now the stationing of nuclear weapons, I mean, in Russia, that must have been big news over there in Moscow, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't big news because everybody was expecting that to happen.
Okay.
But what Finland can expect, a worst case scenario of Finland, that nuclear that base will get a nuclear strike, a nuclear first strike, and not just that base, but every single European base that houses American nuclear weapons will get a nuclear strike. If there's any threat from the Americans to, or what looks like a threat to start using them, because you just can't take chances. But even without a nuclear strike, a Reshnik would wipe out whatever facilities you have there. Yeah, you get nuclear elimination. But the point, what the Europeans seem to miss, particularly the Northern Europeans, and they need to be paying attention to that a hell of a lot more. You start talking to Finns. Finns are the prime category here. They're so brainwashed, the majority of Finns, it's ridiculous. They're like little children when you're talking to them. Oh, I'm gonna, the little children that grew that keep playing Call of Duty. I guess a little too much. Oh, I'm gonna be the super sniper killing hundreds of Russian soldiers that they charge into my garden. No, you're not. The way this war will be fought with Finland is the border will be closed, the bases will be destroyed by standoff missiles, and then the Russian military starts working on the cities. It doesn't have to bomb apartment buildings. You take out the ports, you take out the electric power plants, you take out the sewage, you take out the heats, whatever centralized heating they have. You get gas facilities. And the old Russian saying, "Zima не за горами," winter's not beyond the mountains, comes into play. Finland has a population about 3 times bigger than the Finnish, than non-technologically structured Finland can support. Which means if everybody has to go chop wood to survive and not freeze to death in the winter, most people are going to freeze to death in the winter. They don't have the houses for it. They don't have the facilities for it. The modern apartment cannot be heated by wood. They don't have wood stoves. You can't even install them for the most part. So this would be the Russian point with Finland. Why charge in there? We take out the infrastructure and we let the winter take care of them. The population starvation in winter. Finland imports a lot of its food. This is the same thing for all the cold countries. I mean, look, if it comes down to a total war, understand what total war, non-nuclear total war. Those underground gas storage facilities in Germany, gone. The liquefied gas ports, gone. Rheinmetall, of course, is going to be gone. Most of your electric power stations, gone. That's the first strike to take that out. Or maybe the first strike may be to take out the leadership, because Russia's flat out said, we're going to go after the European leaders and their families. We're not, before we start going after people, we're going to take the leaders out. They're the ones that want war, after all.
Do you think Russia now is going to take some of that playbook from the West and saying like, no, decapitation strikes, sure, why not? The West started it. They probably also tried it with Vladimir Putin and Valdai. So why not us? Why not Oreshnik, the Brussels, right?
Oh yeah.
You think that's now on the cards?
Absolutely. I don't think they'll jump directly into it, but it'll be a ladder of escalation. When the full war starts, I would not advise being in the Euro Parliament buildings or in NATO headquarters. I'd advise running as far away from those as you can, because those are number one. I'm not quite sure which one would be the number one target and which one would be the number two target. You'd take out the leadership, and there you go. You put in Reshnik, it'll take out any bunkers underneath those buildings.
Russia threatened retaliation for what you just described earlier in the Donbass of that school for teachers, and threatened or said it advises all the European diplomats to leave, or all diplomats to leave Kiev, in order to avoid damage to them, right? And that they would retaliate against decision-making centers in Kiev. That strike hasn't happened yet. Why do you think that is?
Well, it has. Multiple strikes have happened. Russia did say, and came from the parliament, they weren't going to take out the civilian leadership. I have my questions on that, because a lot of people say, oh, if you just take out one of these guys, another one will take his place. No, that's not the type of government you're dealing with. That's the type of government that happened in Russia. That's the type of government that's obviously happened in Iran. That's the type of government you have in China. You take out the leadership, the next guy in rank stands up. You take him out, the next guy in rank stands up. You don't have that in Zelensky, because there is no ideology in that government other than how much can I get out of this? How much can I sell the last Ukrainian baby for organs, pedophiles, or a grenade strapped to its hand and push the prom toward the Russian soldiers? That's the people you're dealing with. You're dealing with a cannibal elite that's there to make money. As long as they're making money, they start getting whacked, or rather, as the church puts it, presented to Jesus, or presented, they leave because they're there to feed off Ukraine. They're not there to die from old age in Ukraine. They're not there to rebuild Ukraine. They're there to make money. And as long as they're making money hand over fist, they're going to stick around. But the moment that starts getting very dangerous, they're going to take what they've already stolen, and it's usually in some Western bank, and they're going to get the hell out. Should they be tracked down and brought to justice? Absolutely. Beyond a doubt, these people are the worst of humanity. It's like the guy in Monaco. They just got well, I guess he survived. His wife lost her legs. He's a Ukrainian businessman. The guy owns half the scam centers in Ukraine that are not just scamming Russians, but they're also very effective at scamming Europeans and Americans. He was pulling in $2 billion a year in profit. He just didn't want to share with Zelensky. I mean, these guys are the worst scum of humanity. Some are scamming grandmothers out of their savings. Others are sending their grandsons off to die and making money off of it. This is not exactly the peak of humanity. This is the worst of the worst.
Yeah, but the problem is that under the special military operation, under this limited type of warfare that Russia chose to implement, for strategic reasons, that thing won't go away, right? And what do you think it is, in terms of strategy, why the current leadership still sticks to its guns? Almost literally, of saying like, no, we're going to do this methodologically in the Donbass, the way we've been doing it for a while. And Vladimir Putin actually said like, this is going to come to a conclusion relatively soon, so that he expects that this wave of moving forward, maybe even to the Dnieper, will at some point succeed, and from there you do then what exactly?
Well, the Dnieper is already transformed. And as a war progresses, war goals change. Let's begin with this. And Ukraine was warned every time that the next series of negotiations, the deal is going to just get worse. And now as Putin said, now it's not just Donbass and maybe first of all, it was Donbass. And autonomy for Donbass, federalization. Then it was just when the Donbass was recognized separately, it was just an independent Donbass. And then it was an independent Donbass inside of Russia, plus now Kherson and Zaporizhia. Now all of Novorossiya, but Novorossiya is Kharkiv, Sumy, and on down to Odessa, just shy of Kiev. And Dnipropetrovsk, I think, would be involved in that Donbass too. So, what's next? Well, you talk to the Poles and you ask them, "Do you want to take the West?" But well, your land for a long time. It was all Russian lands. Even Galicia was Russian lands up to about the 1400s. Well, fine, whatever. That was a long time ago. But the Poles so far, they want it, but they don't want to deal with the Ukrainians. But they're being led to obviously understand they will deal with the Ukrainians because the Ukrainians want a third of Poland. And it's hard to ignore. Suddenly Novorossiysk realized, oh, wait a minute, Melnik, wow, that's one Nazi too far. Bandera, Shashevich, yeah, they butchered 300,000 Poles, but oh wait, well, Melnik, that's just too much Nazism for us. We're going to take back the White Eagle Award. At Zelensky kneeling in Melnik's grave after his return from where was Luxembourg, I believe. That Nazi bastard got to live the rest of his life out with dripping in the blood of innocent people. Well, then again, Bandera was finally terminated in Munich, where he lived for another 15 years after the war. A murderous Nazi criminal walking around absolutely freely. And people knew who he was. So that goes so much for Western idealism and democracy and all that crap. All the stuff told for little children and foreigners. But the reality doesn't quite go there. But Azov published now that Azov is no longer a battalion brigade, but now it's a corps, which is through divisions. So that's normal corps. True, they're all undermanned, but they've published their core flag with Greater Ukraine on it that just happens to have a third of Poland attached to it. And now, Zelensky told Novorossiysk, go to hell, we'll decide who our heroes are. You don't get a word in this, which is basically, under normal circumstances, would at least destroy any diplomatic relations. And then several of his commanders just flat out said, keep pushing, and Ukrainians will be killing your people. You'll have Ukrainian drones. You're not enough for this. And this was all over last week. So the Ukrainians are a rabid dog. I mean, that's what they are. And you cannot be friends with a rabid dog. It's going to bite everybody. I mean, let's just walk down the short list of countries Ukraine has attacked outside of its fight with Russia. Let's see, it murdered a couple Poles with a missile, trying to get Poland in. It's attacked the refineries in Hungary. It attacked the refineries in Romania. It attacked refineries in Slovakia. Never mind the money it was filtering in for the race, the Hungarian elections that was going through from Brussels through Ukraine over to Magyars, if the reports are even halfway true. It attempted genocide in Costa, Romania. Those 4 drones, I mean, Mikhail Lutska, who's a head of the PPR party, former member of parliament, and several members of parliament have come out and said it straight out. This wasn't an accident. For 4 drones, 2 drones were headed for the oil storage facilities, and 2 drones were headed for the nitrate storage facilities at port. You remember Beirut? I'm pretty sure it was the Israelis that blew that up, but because they were in there. We're going to have the only working ports, and everybody's going to have to go through us stage. This was after Netanyahu came out in the UN and had that map and the lines. It all needs to go through Israel, and then the main competition sport just blows up. That from the nitrate. If you remember that explosion, that would have been in Costa. The only thing that saved the people's lives there, basically from wiping out half the city, to try to drag Ukraine into, NATO into a broader war, was the anti-oil spill buoys that they set up in port. And those drones got stuck. And a lot of people came out and videotaped those drones, which are absolutely, let's also be honest, they're British drones that the Ukrainians use. The Ukrainians aren't building these drones. They may be slapping them together, get them disassembled, but they're British. Well, they videotape these drones. And Ukraine, oh, we lost control of them. So give us 15 minutes, we'll detonate them. So you lost control of them, but you can still detonate them on command. And yes, the port of Kosta was saved, and probably and the city too. Let's see. Ukraine attacked the Greeks, sank a ship of the Greeks. Ukraine has attacked Azerbaijan, which was supplying them 120 millimeter rounds, killed 5 seamen, including the captain of one of the ships, and they're laughing about it. Ukraine attacked Turkey multiple times. Luckily, Turkey has a leader that's willing to put a piece of his spine in every chair he can find, because his butt can't quite get on all of them. And in the end, he's shown himself to be spineless, no matter what Erdogan says. Even though a Turkish fueler has been hit, multiple foreign ships have been hit in Turkish waters, and Ukraine even sank a Turkish cutter, a military cutter. Ukraine, and you start looking around, Ukraine has hit pretty much so everybody. Luckily for Ukraine, they're all spineless.
The thing is, it's part and parcel of the entire strategy, right? Of the NATO strategy of how to fight this war. You also have to switch off a couple of capabilities of your own allies, and the ones who can sing the loudest tune here is the Germans with their Nord Stream, right? It's like this war has been very handy for NATO on several sides of, again, shepherding in everybody under the same tent. And I talked to Turkish journalists, and one of them told me, look, these bases, these NATO bases outside next to Turkey, and also everything in Cyprus, we precisely understand that they threaten us too, and keep us in line. So, the NATO is a tool not only of fighting against Russia, but also keeping your own sheep inside the herd, right? It serves multiple purposes. The thing is, at this point, what I worry is that we are already beyond the point of no return, where this big war against Russia might already have been decided a while ago, and now we're in the execution phase, in the early part of the execution phase. Is that a worry that you share, or am I taking it too far?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The thing is NATO is going to be a very interesting organization when the actual shooting starts. Because let's just go through NATO really quickly. America's not going to fight. America is going to be neutral in selling weapons to the Europeans. So that's the industry that's going to be supporting Europeans. The Germans cannot produce tanks in any kind of volumes. Russia's producing 1,200 new battle tanks. Germany produced, I think, 8 new tanks over the last year and a half. They don't have the capability. They don't have the gas. They don't have the steel. They don't have the coal. But U.S. has over 5,000 tanks that are, Abrams and Abrams A1s. The first 2 generations, and the first generation they started renovating to the second generation, changing the main gun to 120 and putting multi-layered armor on it from just the steel. Why would you do that if these are old tanks? Why would you keep 5,000 old tanks? Unless you're planning on, selling them somewhere really quickly when they see you. So the U.S. is not going to fight. Yeah, the U.S. is not going to fight, but it's going to make a lot of money off of it. The Turks are not going to fight. They have no reason to get in this fight. The Greeks will have a revolution before they have to fight. The Bulgarians basically are already having a revolution. They changed governments. There's crowds in the streets right now ripping down Ukrainian flags. They're not going to fight. Even the Croatians, as bloodthirsty as they can sometimes get, they're like, yeah, that's all great. We'll send weapons, we're going to send soldiers. Ain't no way in hell we're going to go fight. The Romanians are a toss-up because, if we follow the elections, obviously the majority of the Romanians do not want this war to happen. They don't want to fight. I mean, Gheorghescu had 68% of the vote, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but again, if you then pull off what they're trying to do, which is try to get Russia to attack first, right? Then you're gonna have the what you told me in the beginning in reverse. If you're gonna have this rally around the flag effect inside the Europe, and you might actually get enough people dumb enough to sign up for this and actually go to inflict serious hurt on Russia, until and unless the Russians do it in a way that that scares the hell out of everybody else, but that is the Karaganov way, and Karaganov of course proposes it with tactical nukes, and that's an absolutely horrific scenario. But I do believe from the discussions we are having and with other Russian colleagues that apparently the thinking is now seriously going in this direction, isn't it?
Just something to consider. Russia doesn't really have tactical nukes. The tactical nukes he's talking about aren't 5 or 10, 15 kiloton weapons. What is labeled as a tactical nuke in Russia is a 75 kiloton nuclear warhead. 2 Hiroshimas. That's a tactical nuke. That's a city buster for most places. That's Rotterdam gone as a tactical nuke. We're not even talking, so if these are used, if it goes to tactical nukes to take out American nuclear stockpiles in Europe, that's not a little bomb. Plus the fallout, which will cover most of Europe. Europe is let's be honest, Europe is a cage full of hamsters. It's the fallout will cover most of the peninsula in one direction. I think there's enough of, you don't have to hit the cities for it to fall out on the cities and make a lot of problems. Not to mention poison most of the agricultural land for the next at least 10, anywhere from 10 to 100 years. Look, Chernobyl, when Chernobyl blew, that cloud reached Scotland. And the Scottish shepherds were told for 10 years, basically, they weren't allowed to go up in the mountains with their herds because it took that long for the radiation to wash out of the ecosystem. Some of it might still be there. A low dose of radiation will kill you. In fact, it's questionable how much it kills you, if nothing else. My uncle, 2 of my uncles died of stomach cancer. One died at 84, the other one died at 78. Now, granted, the one that died at 78, they were brothers, by the way. The one that died at 78, he had, it went in remission for a while, it came back. But here's the interesting thing. They were both military engineers, construction engineers. The one that died at 84, they were near a Russian or a Soviet nuclear site, and they were stationed there, and they made a garden. What they didn't realize is the soil they used was radioactive. And they all ate the plants from the garden, the tomatoes, and so on. But that was when he was in his 30s. He died in 84. Yeah, he got contaminated, but he died at 84 years of age. Yeah. So would he have died anyways from that cancer? I don't know. The other one was working directly in construction, radioactive. And he got enough radiation from the construction work, but he died at 79. So again, how much does it affect? I don't know.
Yeah, but what we know from,
it's not fun.
What we actually know from Chernobyl for sure is that it doesn't affect everybody equally, but it pushes definitely up the number of deaths of leukemia and whatnot. Yes. It's statistically speaking, it's a horrible scenario. But certain individuals, just like chain smokers, somebody might make it to 88 chain smoking, another one's gone with 42, right?
So what I'm saying is about the fallout. Now, if you're near ground zero, you're gonna get you're getting zapped in the massive dosages, and if you're better off dying fast in a blast than surviving, because it's not much of a survival. So, but fallout falling on cities is still going to have a big effect, at least psychologically. It's nothing good.
So we don't want that. So the question to me is is Russia really actually now contemplating this? Or is the idea still to just absorb as Iran absorbed and plow on with the primary strategy?
Well, from the military point, of course, the military is contemplating this. It's their duty. It's their job to contemplate and plan this out. Let's not be unrealistic about it. Are the politicians? A good chunk of politicians are. I think with the Oreshnik, Russia can do it without going directly into nuclear. And it's still pretty horrific, realistically speaking. The rally around the flag, I think, is going to be very dependent on how it's done. If you go after the leadership, if you go after a leadership in, say, Germany, or take out the Rheinmetall plant, or something of the sort, you will get certain amount of rally around. Oh, the Germans may rally, but I doubt it. The East Germans will. They actually were denazified and have sanity on their side. West Germans were never denazified. They just had the Nazi symbols removed. And a lot of the second and third tier Nazis went right back in the government and got promotions while we were at it. But the question, would everybody in Europe rally around the flag? The Greeks wouldn't. The Bulgarians wouldn't. Most would say, yeah, the Germans had it coming. The hatred between the different nations in Europe is huge. The only thing the only two things that are keeping them in line right now is an elite that's absolutely not representative of the people, and the threat of Russia. And even then, that's the second part is not exactly a very strong glue, if you want to call it that. So I think a lot of these countries, particularly, I highly doubt the Spanish and the Portuguese are going to go full on. Let's go have a war. They may talk about it to some degree, but no. So really, what you're going to have is these core Northern European states, Germany, France, and then we'll see with France even the UK, if it's not in a full civil war by that point, the Norwegians, the Scandinavian countries. And the pre-Baltics, and that's going to be your core warmongering. Poland is in a flux, I think, right now, if we really look at it realistically, because the Polish people know what's next door. They hate the Banderites. They despise them, and the Polish government, at least on the Novorossiysk, seems to be kind of waking up, or maybe they even knew, but they were looking for the opportunity to start moving. Poland, by the way, just said, scrap the deal about the MiG-29s. We're not giving them over.
Did they? Okay.
Yes, they did. So, so you're going to have the heroes you want? Well, you can have them without our MiG-29s. And that's a hit on the Ukrainian war machine.
Well, I think that's a positive note.
Yes, it is. That is.
My friend, I think we should grab the opportunity and end on a positive note of somebody not giving military as tools, because I want to go and eat fake Italian food now. So do you agree, or is there something we really need to add right now? Or
no, I agree. I'll say this. While I was at Donbass, I saw the ultimate fast food place, Pizza Burger Walk.
Pizza Burger Walk.
Yeah, you can get your pizza, your burger, and a walk. So you got the American, the German, and Chinese. Just all under.
Well, that's just human.
Or the German, or
why only have one of the
Italian,
things? Like, why not all of them? So this is the way to go and to live life. Everybody, if you want to follow Stas, then go and find him on his YouTube channel, Mr. Slavic Man, Slavic with a K, right?
Yep.
Find him also on his X and his your Telegram channel, where they find you. What are the two places to find you?
On the Telegram, you can look at Stas was there. That's the English one, and Stas Today Obratna is the Russian one. And I'm also on Substack, Zmei Garinich.
I will put the links into the description box below. Stas Krapivnik, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.